I'm Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, Britain's most visionary political party. I want to solve every problem in Britain, and I want to see everyone fulfilled. This is a podcast of hard questions. See me cross-examined. Do I have the answers? Do I really have a plan that works? Ask your questions and decide for yourself.
Good afternoon, good people. You're watching the Everyone is God political podcast. I am Brudsy, as you all know, and I am joined with the lovely Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, a brand new political party. I'm joined with the lovely Marcus. Marcus, how are you today, sir?
I'm really good, Brad. How are you?
Absolutely fabulous. The sun is shining. The sweat is running down my forehead.
My hanky ready to go.
Well, that's a good sign, guys. He's a politician. He's a politician, and he sweats. That's something that's always it's one of those things. And also, it's also important to blink as well, Marcus, so you're relatable. These are things that get thrown at people sometimes. Oh, they don't blink.
Really?
They're not
they
human.
Don't blink. What? They've got too much Botox going on or something.
I think so, Marcus. I think so. So, Marcus, are you ready for these questions? I've got to start.
Yeah.
I've got to jump straight in. And
Shall I introduce myself first?
Introduce yourself properly. Give yourself a proper rundown.
So I'm Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, and I'm running for Prime Minister at the next general election.
Sounds powerful. Sounds powerful, Marcus. Right, Marcus, your name, Everyone is God. Marcus, why have you chosen such a name?
So there's three sort of main reasons why. The first thing is it's a statement of empowering everybody. And it's an invitation to everybody in Britain to believe in themselves. That one of the central ideas of my politics is that if we're going to solve the problems we've got in this country, everybody in the country has their part to play in that. And everybody has to believe in themselves that they can solve the problems they've got and create what they want. And we're here to help them do that, but the government cannot live everybody's life for them. So we need to empower everybody to play their part in fixing Britain.
Okay. And are you, the names Everyone is God, that kind of suggests that you're a religious party. Are you a religious party?
We're not a religious party at all. We encourage anybody to follow whatever faith they want to. The reason we use the name is not because we're religious, it's to empower everybody fully to believe in themselves. So we have no religious doctrine or code. We have very practical policies that address the problems we have. And it's just simply an invitation for everybody to believe in themselves and fully empower themselves.
Mm-hmm. Are you worried about people maybe sort of thinking that your party sounds a little cultish?
It's certainly something we've debated a lot. And what we found was, particularly when we were choosing the name, we were concerned about this. But we've done a lot of campaigning. We spoke to a lot of people, and generally people get it. They understand. And we've been surprised how many people have said to us, I believe that. I believe we're God. And people feel excited about it. There are some people who don't like it, but you can't be all things to all people. And, I want to build trust with the British public about who I am and what I believe. And this is my belief and experience in life. And I will always speak the truth to the British people and not what might get votes, so that people trust me. And this is the truth of who I am.
Okay. And how does it fit in with other mainstream religions? We've got extremely religious groups in the UK. They hear a party, Everyone is God. How are you going to convince those people? Or what's your answer to that?
Well, again, we're not a religious doctrine party, so it's up to every faith to decide their beliefs for themselves, and we fully encourage that. We want everybody to follow their truth and what they're passionate about. We have no desire to interfere with that at all. It's a really interesting question, Brad, because there's about 85% of the world's population, about 7 billion people, believe in some form of God or deity. There's 2.5 billion Christians, 2 billion Muslims, over a billion Hindus, and maybe half a billion people who have a spiritual orientation. Human beings are highly spiritual, and we want to unite all of that. We don't want to divide. And it's a sort of neutral statement in a way. It doesn't favor anybody or any religion, our name. So, it's a very deep part of humanity, religion and spiritual belief. And we want to allow people to be free flowing with that, but also to tap into this deep desire people have. And we're in a multicultural country. We have lots of different religions and races in this country, and we want to unite all of that. And so, we see our name as more as a unification of religions and different beliefs and whatever belief people have. And this is a central part of my job, is to unify all people in Britain, because that's the only way we're going to fix Britain.
Okay. And atheists, there's a lot of people out there that don't believe in any sort of spiritual higher power. Are you worried about pushing them away, or how does it fit in with them, or what's your message to them?
Well, my message is that we're a practical party, and you can think of our name in practical terms because it translates into all our policies directly. And I hope to be able to explain that on these podcasts that we're doing. So, people who are atheists, we're not asking them to believe in God. We're asking them to believe in themselves so that they can solve their problems they have. And we have many practical policies. And I think when people see those practical policies, I don't think atheists will have a problem with us.
Okay. And, the name Everyone is God, you want to empower everyone. What happens if, you start getting members that start thinking, that they're more godlike than everyone else, and maybe they start trying to go for your position?
Well, anybody is free to set up their own political party. And I encourage anybody to do this and add to the democratic spread and the democratic ideas we have, so the people of Britain have choice about who they go with. We believe passionately in equality. So if anybody thinks they're more God than anything else, we believe in everybody's equal. The statement says that everybody's equal, everyone is God. But you know what? If somebody thinks that they're more God than everybody else, I'd love to see them prove it to me. I'd really be interested.
Okay. For the guys asking questions in TikTok, I will be coming back to your questions at a later time. Just bear with me. I'm just going to continue with my line of questioning on Marcus here.
Great.
I want to find out a lot more about what's going on with this party, this name, and and the simple question, Marcus. Why not just choose a simple name that tells everyone who you are? Like, why not everyone can be great party or something like that? Like, what's your answer to that?
The name tells everybody exactly what we're about. It's absolutely at the center of all our policies. And, I think if people find out more about us, they'll see how the name directly translates into practical policies, which we'll all explain. We've got a whole series of podcasts planned. We'll go right through this. Public can grill me on this, and I'll explain exactly how the name literally, it does what it says on the tin.
So do you believe everyone is divine, or is that just like a metaphor, everyone is God?
I passionately believe it personally, yes. And like I said, 7 billion people in the world believe in some form of God or deity. And most of those religions, I don't want to speak for religions, but most of them have an idea that God's within them in some way. So, it's hardly really a controversial idea. It's the majority idea. We might take it a bit further, but yes, it's not metaphorical. It is my daily experience. It is my belief. And, we're all out with it.
Yeah. You kind of answered it already, but, everyone is God, divine. You believe everyone is divine. Everyone has that sort of spirituality inside them. Do you have any sort of scientific what's your sort of scientific proof or evidence or to sort of bolster this sort of claim?
Well, look, it's difficult to answer that question without getting technical, but it's part of what we want to do as a party. We want to take people deeper to the root of problems. So, you're asking for scientific evidence. I've got a degree in physics from Oxford, and physics was a very key part of what led me to this belief, my experience, my spiritual experience, and my study of physics. We know from quantum mechanics that the atoms in our body are spread across the entire universe. You, Brad, and everybody watching, your body is spread across the entire universe. And we also know from quantum mechanics, and this is hard science, this is not me being metaphorical here. We also know atoms feel everything in the universe and respond to it. So everybody on Earth is feeling everything in the universe and responding to it. Their body adjusts to it. This is godlike. This is the knowledge of God. So I think there's massive evidence for everybody being God. And, Einstein talked about time and how time varies for different people. And this is sort of like God, because we have all, people are constructing the way they experience time. We know this from science. And there's some really interesting theories out there, big theories like quantum loop gravity, which say that time and space are created. And this is all godlike stuff. And it's right there in science. And science, science is almost breaking down the barrier between physics and religion and spirituality. The subjects are merging. So my view is, cut to the answer, science absolutely supports our belief that everyone's God.
Okay. And what does everyone is God mean in practice, basically?
Well, what it means is this, okay? Firstly, everybody creates everything that they experience in their life. And that means they're in control of it. When you have that knowledge, you can then use it to create what you want in your life and solve the problems you have. And it also makes you realize that the government can't really solve your problems for you. All the government can do is provide an environment that encourages you to do that. But each person has to go on their own journey of solving their problems and creating what they want. And, this is what the name is. It's a practical individual path to resolving problems and fulfillment. So I hope it's beginning to become clear how the name directly translates into all the practical policies that we have.
And you mentioned a big P word there, policies. You can sit there in your fancy suit in your lovely conservatory, the lovely sunshine shining in on you. Let's start with policies, Marcus. Let's start with the cost of living. This is a big one, Marcus. What are we going to do about the cost of living crisis?
Right. So again, our fundamental belief feeds straight into our policy on the cost of living. We take a completely different approach to it. I'm not sure if you're aware, but the living standard we have now, the wealth we have now in Britain, economic historians estimate that it's 45 times the wealth we had pre-industrial revolution. So you see, we've had a massive increase of wealth. So why are people struggling with a cost of living crisis when we're 45 times more wealthy than we were pre-industrial revolution? So our belief that we're in control of everything feeds straight into our policy here. And what we want to do is to provide knowledge to everybody in education through school about how to manage money, how to invest, and how to build the wealth they want. And when you do that, you can absorb cost of living shocks without a problem. And I've seen this. I've been an employer all my life, and I've seen nearly all my staff spend all their money every week and then struggle if any costs come in that they didn't anticipate. And we want to help people with all of this and teach them how to change this whole culture around, reframe a cost of living crisis as a crisis of knowledge, where we don't have the knowledge of how to manage money. And that is how we empower everybody to solve this problem. And I know, we're planning obviously a podcast specifically on this where we go into more detail, but this is an example of how the name feeds straight into our policies. Empower everybody, teach them how to manage money, and then they'll always be strong to absorb financial shocks.
Yeah. People are very cynical. I mean, you mentioned one thing I heard there is, we're 40% richer than we were,
No, 45 times richer.
45 times richer.
45 times.
And do you think if you
there's a lot of debate about exactly what the figure is. Economic historians put it anywhere between 20 and 60 times the wealth we had back then, and people survived them and paid their bills.
But I speak to a lot of people on a day-to-day basis, and I can guarantee you they don't feel 10% richer, let alone 45.
So, really good question. Why is that? You see, there's a whole psychology of money management and why people don't feel richer. And what's happened is our wealth has grown by 45 times, but our expectations of what we should buy with that wealth have grown even faster than that. And this leads people to overspend and not manage money. And then they can't absorb cost of living crises. I remember a person my father employed. He was a builder. He laid blocks for my father when we were building new farms. And he was paid well. He did a great job. He was a lovely guy. He loved drinking Guinness. The day that his contract came to an end with my father, he had no money, even though he was paid perfectly well. And he lived in the back of his car in the pub so he could carry on drinking Guinness. People make choices about what they spend their money on. And this is where we want to empower everybody with the right choices that give them the money they need to manage the costs they have in their life and to manage expectation about wealth and what we should have.
Yeah, we'll come back, guys. Like I said, I will put the questions to him after. I've got a few structured questions I'm gonna go through, and then I will come back to him on the free flowing. I think the cost of living is going to be something that people slightly disagree on, but we'll slightly move on. But we'll come straight back, guys.
Can I interrupt you? Because look, we're planning this for our next podcast on Thursday, are we not?
Yes, indeed.
So look, we're going to go right through this, and I'm looking forward to having every hard question you've got, and I'm going to give you some financial models, of real people, real costs, and just how much you can increase your wealth just by a very simple bit of investment and managing your money. And we're going to do the figures, and the figures don't lie.
Yep, guys, we are live right now on Everyone is God Official. That's the YouTube channel. You can, Marcus, unfortunately, due to technical issues and limitations of the software that I'm using, he can't see the comments from TikTok. But you're more than welcome to come over to YouTube, guys, and Everyone is God Official. We're live right now. You can come in and you can you can put your questions directly to Marcus yourself. Marcus, okay, you've mentioned cost of living. I'll come back to you on that one. What about the NHS?
So NHS, again, we take a different view on this. The first thing that we want to say is, everybody has the power to manage their health. And we know there are blue zones around the world. There's 5 of them that have very high health, much, much higher health than people in this country or across the world generally. And people can make choices to live healthy lives. And that's exactly what we want to encourage. So part of our NHS policy, our health policy, the primary part of it is to educate and support people to have healthy lives, exactly what that is. So good eating, good exercise, community, family. We know from these blue zones around the world that this massively boosts health. And when I say that, these people have 40% better health than we do, and 40% need less for the NHS. You're talking billions and billions of pounds of saving in the NHS. So our policy is primarily based in improving the health for the people of Britain so that we don't need so much NHS services, but then also to look for efficiencies in the NHS and particularly in the administrative side of how it's run.
Yeah, Marcus, there's a lot of scrutiny with this at the minute in the chat. There's a lot of scrutiny, and people aren't.
Some of the questions. I'm here.
Well, someone's put disabled people have to do their own rehabilitation nowadays. Laughing my backside off. Let's have a look. There's a lot of people that think this is very good hypothetically. There's people that are saying they can't, they generally can't afford to eat healthy. Like, there are people saying they can't afford to eat healthy, to go and buy apples in the shops. Like, like even me, when I go shop and I buy a bag of apples or something like that, 5 or 6 apples in there, I could be looking at the better part of £3. Like, this is really expensive for like the common, like the most people. £3 for a bag for 6 apples, that's expensive.
It is, but so in our policy will require everybody to analyze their spending. And when you do that, and we're gonna go right through this in the next podcast, when you analyze your spending, you'll start understanding what everything costs, and you'll start understanding where you have disposable income. I'm not denying anybody how food costs are going up. I remember 15 years ago, I'd spend £35 in Lidl's every week for me and my children. Now I'm spending closer to 200. It's gone up massively, but there, within somebody's salary, there are areas where you have choice about what you spend money on with your disposable income, and you can leverage that to solve these problems that people are having. And we need to do this by going through the figures. And I really encourage anybody who's watching this and doubts what I'm saying, tune in to next show on Thursday at 2:00, and we will go through some figures and show exactly how this can be done and how you can absorb those increased costs of your food, your heating, etc.
Yeah, I want to stop. I just want to say quickly, Marcus, because you have told me, stories, but I would like you to sort of say it again, because people are saying, disposable income. What disposable income? Like, what do people have the perception? I don't know why, but they have this perception of you that you're shopping Harrods, you're living a life of Riley. Have you actually ever had to, juggle the budget? Have you actually? Yeah. Okay.
I'm glad you asked me this, Brad, because I'm speaking from personal experience. When I set up my first business in 1997, I was earning £1.90 an hour for the first 4 years, and I was living and paying all my bills on between 4,000 and 5,000 a year. And from that position, my income grew slightly, but not much, for the next 10 years. And I managed to save and invest, and from that build wealth. So it's fair to say I was living off of about half the minimum wage back then. And I know exactly what it's like. I was brought up on a farm. Farmers, we're brought up to save money. We don't spend a lot. I'm speaking from hard personal experience and getting out of that situation and becoming, very comfortable financially.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Don't worry, guys. I will let you come back to him. You can. I'll let you get your claws into him. What about taxes? What's your stance on taxing the rich and making them pay their fair share?
Right. There's a massive debate. It rages always about how you tax people and how you spend that tax. And we believe that this debate pulls everybody down. It disempowers everybody, because we're all arguing over where should we pull money from and who should we give it to. We want to completely eliminate this argument, and we want to change the tax system to a cost-based system. So everybody pays for the cost of the public services they have directly. Now, this might alarm some people, but we would back that up with a much higher minimum wage that would allow everybody to do that. And then this whole debate about how you tax and spend the revenue that the government has, it goes, because everybody's fully empowered then to pay what services they have. The only two taxes we would have is income tax at a much higher band, somewhere maybe certainly 100,000 plus. And we'd also have inheritance tax. So because we don't want huge disparity in wealth across the country. So that they would be the only two taxes we would have. And that tax income would then be filtered in to help people within the country. But primarily, the entire tax would be eliminated in our system, and it just become cost-based. You pay for your NHS, you pay for your education, etc., what it costs. And your pension will be your pension, and you have your pot and nobody touches it, it gets spent nowhere else, and you get back that sum that you've invested in your retirement.
Okay. I think the people are skeptical. The people are skeptical, and this is the good thing about this podcast, guys. We will be doing this twice a week, Tuesday and Thursday, and this will be a really good opportunity to really grill, question, find out a little bit about Marcus, his political party, his stance. Like I said, he is running for prime minister at the next general election. So this is someone that we will see on social media a little bit more, and be skeptical. And the good thing about it is we've got him here before he goes too mainstream and he's too good for the old Brudsy Entertainment podcast. So while we've got him here, we will grill him and take him to task. So Marcus, how will people get involved if they want to get involved in this?
So you can go on our website, everyoneisgod.co.uk. You can also find us on YouTube at Everyone is God Official. And if on our website, you'll find out all the ways you can get involved. You'll see very detailed policies there that explain exactly how we're going to do everything. There's plenty of opportunities to get involved. We welcome your feedback, your questions, and, it's all there on the website.
Okay. And one of the interesting things that's coming up, because I have grilled Marcus, I have spoke to him before about, cost of living. I speak to people that are struggling, are living paycheck to paycheck, and Marcus has actually decided that he will be coming up with some sort of, in-field practical examination. So what that basically means is he will come out. Well, Marcus, you explain what you're going to do. I'll find a candidate, but what are you going to do for someone that says that they're struggling, they can't juggle the apples, and the lights are off?
What we'd like to do is we'd like to find somebody or people who want to have a complete sort of review of how they spend money and have an explanation of how they can start to solve the financial problems they have. Now, we need to be really careful here. These people, first of all, need to be completely honest about their financial spending and be prepared to analyze it all. And then they need to be brave enough to have a very honest look of exactly where their money's going and if there's room for maneuver within that. And, we all make difficult decisions in life, and sometimes the decisions we make can lead us into very difficult financial positions. A classic example is, maxing out on your mortgage. If you max out on your mortgage and you get the most expensive house you can have, if you struggle, you lose a job or whatever, you're at much higher risk of financial difficulty. There's many decisions we make that can lead us into very difficult financial positions. And that's part of this analysis we'll do with these people. So, Brad, I think we need to, maybe plan this more and just have a set of sort of criteria for somebody who's ready for this process. And then we hope we can sort of go through it live and make a show out of it. Yep. And actually go through exactly how they can change things and get out of a financial hole.
Yeah. Do you think people, because there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of answers, they've got the answers, they've been there, they've been successful in life, but it does seem like they want to keep their cards really close to their chest, and they don't want to give people some very sort of basic, even if it's just advice, like really good advice from a really successful person, to help them sort of uplift themselves in their community. Because I think fundamentally there's people out there that are that are stuck in their system, they're stuck in their ways, they blame the government for everything, but there's also people out there that want better for themselves, and there's people out there that are working and doing like really important jobs, like working in the care sector, working in the NHS, and there are people struggling. There are nurses struggling to balance the books at the minute, and they shouldn't be. If you're Prime Minister, Marcus, I'm going to put you on the spot. If you're Prime Minister, what will you do to make healthcare workers make their lives better? Because I've got a lady in here that does healthcare work, and she has actually had to stop doing certain jobs because she can't afford to get out to. She lives in a rural sort of area, and she can't afford to get out to certain patients, certain clients. So it doesn't seem like even there's any sort of system in place to help her even get to the clients as a priority.
So why is it she's struggling to get to these clients? So she's working for the NHS as a community nurse. Is that it?
I think it's a care worker, and it's probably more of a private sort of company, I believe.
So the company doesn't have the funds to see these people.
Apparently, there's a fuel crisis in the company or something like that.
I think we cannot base our money management around the idea that prices are going to remain very constant and there's never going to be any price shocks. And we have to build that into our understanding of how we manage money and how we structure all our economic systems and how we live our life privately and manage our money. And, it's very difficult without talking to this lady and actually really drilling down into exactly what's going on there. I'm sort of talking blind here.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm thinking straight away is, you see, I've been in business all my life, and I'm also obviously a private individual as to manage their money. And one of the things you can guarantee is that there will be price shocks. We live in a highly connected world where, wars on the other side of the planet can affect us massively. And that's what we're seeing now. We have to factor that in. I do business advice to businesses, and you cannot run businesses where you're thinking, prices are going to be constant and we can always plan. You've got to allow contingency for price shocks, and it's the same privately. We want to totally change the culture on this so that everybody expects price shocks and they're prepared for it, because we know they will happen. History proves this time and time again. So in our system, we would educate everybody through school about how international events will affect price in businesses to business owners, and how it will affect individuals, and how to plan for that and mitigate the effect of it. I can only talk very generally without talking to this lady, but we're planning to hook up with these people and talk directly with them to give much more specific advice and drill down into the detail.
Yeah, well, she's one of my loyal sort of listeners, and I speak to her quite a lot regarding our shows and stuff. But Marcus, we're having our little bit of a free flow at the minute. Something about yourself, Marcus, that sort of opens you up to the people. What's the hard? I don't know. You tell me. What's the hardest obstacle? Go on. You go.
What's the hardest obstacle I've had?
The hardest obstacle that you've had to overcome in your life.
I would say it's mental health issues. Depression and anxiety has been a feature through most of my life, and I've suffered with it very extremely. And it's driven a lot of my politics, because, politics isn't driven by politics, it's driven by human beings and psychology. We all make decisions every day, which creates the world and the politics we have. And the difficulties I've had with mental health have really highlighted how important mental health is, and an understanding of psychology. And it set me on a very deep journey of searching and trying to find answers. And, this has been one of the biggest challenges of my life. And it's given me so much knowledge that I use in my politics.
Okay. That's a very honest thing to come out and say. I mean, this is why it's quite fascinating for me to have that opportunity to speak to someone that actually wants to ascend to that sort of level, and one of the highest positions in the UK, Prime Minister. Basics. All right, let's have one more, Marcus, before I sort of knock off. Borders, the boats. This has become a massive thing. We've got riots happening all up and down the country. What would be your stance on the small boats, for instance?
Well, if I'm Prime Minister, it's very, very simple. We welcome immigration, but balanced legal immigration. And by that, I mean we would welcome people into the country as long as our population isn't growing. So we would set immigration at a level where our population is stable or slightly reducing. With regard to the boats, it is an issue that financially is completely exaggerated, but it's a very important issue. And I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And our policy is really simple on this. We will patrol the channel with the Navy, and we will make sure not one boat comes across. We will not rely on France or anything else. We won't be paying France to try and police the border when they're not doing that. We will stop the boats with our Navy. That's their job. And I would order them immediately to put in a plan in place to make sure no boats get across. And then we have a balanced, legal immigration policy.
Wow. Are you worried about that sounding kind of Nigel Farage, reform, restore? People associate these kind of politics with sort of, racist sort of far right parties. What with that? What if someone said to you, Marcus, you're just like the rest. You're trying to blow a dog whistle. You're just like one of the rest. And, people are being very bold now. They're openly calling politicians racist now. What would you say to that?
I think it's a really good question. I think I'm the opposite of a racist. First of all, I'm half Greek. My mother is an immigrant. She's Greek. And I married an Indian woman who's, from a family that immigrated to this country. So my children are half Indian and a quarter Greek and a quarter English. I love foreign culture. It is. Britain cannot solve the problems of the rest of the world. We're a small country. All we can do is play our part to do that. And we need to be honest about this. It's no good to anybody allowing people to come in by breaking your laws and come in as criminals who haven't respected your laws and your boundaries. This isn't good for anybody. And there's only a certain amount of people we can take into this country realistically. So we have to accept that. And that is not a right-wing policy. This is a policy of pure pragmatics of, how many people can we take in? That is not a racist thing at all. And it is the kindest thing to do for everybody. There's just it's no good for anybody, people dying in boats coming across the channel, then getting here and going into hotels, and then it causing riots in this country and all sorts of problems and destabilizing the country. This process is no good for anybody, and stopping it is best for everybody. And then allowing people to come through by a balanced immigration policy. This is the kindest thing of all. It's the way we can help the world in the best way, and that is our policy.
Wow, that's refreshing to actually get an answer like that from a politician without really blowing the dog whistle or demonizing everyone that has a problem with people coming over on boats. Like what people are saying, it's just common sense. My own personal opinion is that I would make a legal route for every single country to apply for immigration in this country, a legal process, so no one comes on boats. And if you do come on the boat, I would say, look, you have to go back. We can't just have half your country come over on a boat. It doesn't make no sense. It's not logistical. People are going to die. We don't want responsibility for that. But I would make a legal process for everyone to apply, and then we pick the best. And obviously, we have to. I can't be naive. In countries in the Middle East where we've had the Iraq War, we've had all these wars going on, we've decimated countries, they are no more, some of them, we've caused big problems. We do have a sort of responsibility to either help rebuild or, take the desperate, like the women and children. I think a lot of the problems that we have is the common phrase is pushed around, fighting age men turning up on boats, and that's sort of just stuck. That's what it is now. And if I go out, I speak to people at these rallies, and all they say is it's not even women and children. If it was women and children, we'd understand it. It's just men on the boats, well, I'd put that to you, Marcus. What do you say to that?
Well, we agree with you. And, you talk about everybody having a legal route into the country. I believe this system's already in place. This is exactly how the immigration system works. But, sometimes it gets stuck in bureaucracy. And of course, to be fair to the government, I think they're trying to speed that up. And we would certainly try and speed that process up as well. But I believe, Brad, that system's already in place. Anybody, there's legal routes. You can go online and ask AI. There's legal application method from any country in the world, pretty much, I believe, through the embassies. I imagine it will happen, or possibly online. Check it out online and you'll find out how exactly this system works. But it's all in place already, I believe.
Okay, I shall certainly look into that. Guys, this was the first episode with the Marcus White, the leader of Everyone is God. This guy will be pushing for. We will come with more questions, but we're gonna wrap today because this is the first show, guys, and we want you hungry, we want you thirsty. So join us on Thursday at 2 p.m. and we'll finish that bit. Marcus, anything you would like to say to the good listeners of the?
Yeah, so don't forget Thursday, 2 o'clock. This is when we really want to try and drill down into the specifics of, cost of living and how it can be managed. We're really looking forward, and we need to try and work out a way where we can speak to people more live and really, find out the specifics of what they're struggling with so we can help them. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, and I'm running to be Prime Minister at the next general election. So look forward to seeing you on Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Okay, guys, we will be putting the questions to him, guys. Remember where you saw him first, okay, guys? Guys, join us again soon.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for watching. I'm Marcus White, leader of Everyone is God, Britain's most visionary political party. Subscribe to us on YouTube or visit our website if you would like to find out more and get involved.